Hello friends, my name's Angel. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're doing a really fun video where I'm gonna give some book recs. Also, if my voice sounds a bit off, I fully lost it 2 days ago and I'm just starting to get it back now. So if I sound a bit raspy, that's why. I saw this video idea where you give very specific book recommendations for certain things, if you want to feel this way or if you like this, read this kind of thing. And I want to give some of those today because when somebody asks me for a book rec normally, I panic. Just look at me super vaguely and be like, hey, can you recommend me a thriller? I'm like, no, because what do you want? Do you want unstable main characters? Do you want it to be more creepy? Do you want a really good plot twist? I need to know exactly what you're looking for to make a recommendation. Because what if you say fantasy and I recommend you a book with vampires and you want a fae? How was I to know? So we're gonna go over some very specific book recommendations today that I think are just a lot of fun. Also, if you like some videos, let me know because I could probably make literally 20 million of these because I love these. Also, no, these are not my favorite books ever to recommend. These are just books I found to match certain scenarios. Some of these I didn't even rate very highly. I think one book in the stack I rated a 3.5 or 3.25. But if you're looking for this specific scenario, you're gonna love it. So that's why I'm recommending it. I changed position because the lighting just was not working. So now we're facing this way. I hope it's okay. Starting off strong, if you want a love triangle that's done right and is not super irritating, will actually have you rooting for both sides, you're gonna pick up The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. Simply put, this one of the only love triangles I actually have not minded in my entire time reading it, and I actually enjoyed reading, and I was rooting for both sides. And to this day, I think with the ending still makes me cry. So if you want a contemporary romance that's spicy, has good found family, amazing banter, great setting, a little small town, you're gonna pick up Flawless by Elsie Silver. Will this put you into your cowboy era? Yes. Is that a problem? No. When I went into this, I did not expect to like this as much as I did, and I devoured this, and Chestnut Springs is actually now my favorite contemporary romance series I've ever read my entire life. My favorite in this series is the 4th book, but this one I also rated a 5-star. This is what Summer and Rhett is a bull rider, and pretty much Summer is sent out to babysit him for the end of his season to make sure he's not losing any sponsorships and he's acting accordingly, and it's just a lot of fun. If you are a type A older sibling who had to step up in any kind of way, you're gonna pick up Malibu Rising. Now this book destroyed me, and I say is one of the first times I've fully seen myself in a main character. Nina Riva is hands down my favorite main characters I've ever read about in my entire life. She's incredible, and pretty much when I picked this book up, I was just told it was about oh, it's set over 24 hours and it's about a party. That's not the case. There's also a past and present timeline, and just like I said, if you are an older sibling, you're gonna get this. And this is gonna hit for you. This one I actually not rate super highly personally, but if you love the butterfly effect, you're gonna pick up maybe In Another Life. Now the reason, I actually enjoyed this book. The only reason why it lost a few points for me was because I was hoping it was a gradual butterfly effect, it was okay, she made this decision and then this happened, eventually led to this. Not the case. And this one we follow Hannah, and pretty much she's back in her hometown for the first time in years after kind of moving out and about, and she pretty much goes out for a night in the town with her best friend Gabby. And the two timelines we follow is if she left the club with Gabby versus if she left the club with her. Pretty much the problem I have with this book is that it was so drastic right off the bat. Literally she leaves with one person and instantly something massive happens that changes her entire life. I'm like, oh, okay. I was hoping it was a bit more subtle than that, and it was not. However, if you don't mind that and you love the butterfly effect, you're gonna love this. It is told in 2 timelines. It pretty much alters every chapter, and it was very interesting. If you want a fun YA mystery series that's super bingeable and you loved Criminal Minds, you're gonna pick up The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is by the same author who did The Inheritance Games, and just this is a better series, hands down, better one. This is Teenage Criminal Minds. This is teenagers solving FBI cold cases, and as the series goes on, obviously they get mixed up in some real cases as well. These are so easy to read. They're so easy to get into. This first book I rated a 5 stars, I believe, so it pulled me right in. There's even some, I'm gonna find one. There's even some chapters in these books that are written from the point of view, who's the unsub they're looking at that book. And it literally gives the same vibes as when you're watching the episode of Criminal Minds and it cuts to the unsub and what they're doing, and it's it gives that exact same vibe. If you want to be absolutely outraged by female reproductive rights, you're gonna take my hand. This is about 2 young girls who are medically sterilized against their knowledge and their guardian's knowledge, and the doctor pretty much helps them fight and stands by them as this is happening. This book made me so mad. So mad. And there was even in the Goodreads page, the very last thing it says for the synopsis is that history repeats what we don't remember. And the fact that this was going on, and we're not really talking about it now, and now we're struggling again with women's reproductive rights, is absolutely insanity to me. And I just read this and I just felt enraged for days after reading it. If you just want a book that's gonna alter your entire life and make you sob and question everything, you're gonna read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. If you guys don't know, this is one of my 6-star reads. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read in my entire life. This is set during World War II, and it's about 2 sisters who live in France as the Nazis overtake their country. Pretty much they don't always see eye to eye, and they end up kind of going their own separate ways for a little bit during the war, but they each become a hero in their own right. And like the way this book has stuck with me is insane. And like I want to reread this book, but it makes me like physically ill thinking about rereading this book. But you should absolutely read it. I already know people are gonna start screaming at me because I'm like, Angel Every recommends this book, and for a good reason, okay? If you want to get into the fantasy genre, as like a romance girl, you want to get into fantasy, you're gonna pick up A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know. Okay, so everybody recommends it for a good reason. Because you should. This is like the perfect introduction to fantasy where it's not super overwhelming and it's not written in a really hard to understand way. And it's also not very long for a fantasy book. This first book is just over 400 pages. Does it get longer as the series goes on? Absolutely, but this one itself is not very long. Pretty much our main character, Feyre, goes out into the woods one day and ends up killing a wolf that she doesn't know is actually a fae. And then gets taken by their High Lord to go serve time for like life in his castle for killing the fae. Does that make sense? It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, if that kind of helps you get any knowledge. You just go from there. And the found family they have in these books is absolutely insane. There is fae, there's romance, there's spice, there's found family. These books are just amazing. I'm just saying, if you just want to read a literary masterpiece, if you just want to read a book and be like, oh my god, like how'd you come up with that? And just like cry a lot at the same time, you're gonna pick up Babel by R.F. Kuang. Now I know this book is intimidating to a lot of people. It was intimidating to me as well. And this is actually one of the first fantasy books I ever read. Like I think I really just like dove in a little bit off the deep end, you know? This book is a little bit slower paced, you're following along, but like truthfully, it destroyed me. You're following a group of students who are at Oxford in their like translation area. And pretty much the magic system in this book, and like the only really fantasy element in it is that like magic, like translation and these like silver bars are like magic and power in this world. Anything R.F. Kuang writes, fun fact, you'll be sobbing, and this one is no different. If you're a Swiftie who listened to Taylor Swift's new album and you kind of caught that F1 racer like name drop, you're interested, or if you should love F1 racing, you're gonna pick up Throttled, which is the first book in the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher. This is F1 racing romance, and pretty much like this first book was great. Second book fell a little bit downhill for me, and the third and fourth book were immaculate. The fourth book was a 5-star. These books have racing, spice, found family, and the last 2 books definitely do not shy away from very complex topics. It's having a lot of fun in this first book. You know, they're going to the different countries, they're doing all the F1 races, they're traveling, they're having a great time. It's just really fun to read. If you want to get into dark academia and you don't mind feeling a little bit stupid, along the way, you're gonna pick up Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I think, you know, I understand a lot of books pretty well. My comprehension is pretty high. This book made me feel like I had never read a book in my entire life. The first half went so far over my head, I was lost. And for a few chapters, I kept trying to go back and like reread to comprehend. It just was not happening. Don't do that. Just read and figure out later. It's gonna make sense eventually. Pretty much Alex Stern does not have the easiest life, and she gets like this kind of like mystery scholarship to Yale. But pretty much her people who sent her, who are the mystery people, want her to kind of keep an eye and like look at Yale secret societies. A very, very vague description of the book. This book ended up being a 5-star for me when I figured out what the heck was going on, and I can't wait to dive into Hellbent, so yes. If you just want a fun YA fantasy trilogy that has really good plot twists, you're gonna pick up The Prison Healer. This book's about Kiva. She is the prison healer, and she's in Zalendorf, which is like a super like, you know, it's pretty much like the biggest prison in their kingdom. Some twist, she ends up going through a set of trials, and the ending of this book had me gagged. I honestly don't know how I didn't see it coming, but a lot of people don't see it coming. The problem is like this author just throws in so many mini plot twists that she has you looking so many different directions and getting so distracted that you don't see what's happening, what's going on. It's just super easy to get through, and the ending had me jaw on the floor. If you want a great book to make you question your life about human connection, you're gonna read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Pretty much our main character Addie LaRue gets kind of tricked into making a deal with the devil, and pretty much now she lives forever, but nobody ever remembers who she is. So you can be in the same room as her having a full-blown conversation, and if you leave and go to the washroom and come back, you're like, who is this girl? You're like, where'd you come from? Nobody ever remembers her until one day she meets somebody who can remember her. And this book was just so beautiful, but I did get to the end and I was like, so where's the sequel? You're telling me that's how it ends, there's no sequel? So you'll feel a little bit like frustrated by the ending potentially, but it's just beautifully written. I listened to the audiobook of this, and if you have the opportunity to do so, please do. The narrator for that audiobook is insane, just so crazy talented, so definitely an audiobook one if you can. If you went through a series in life where you just binged Forensic Files, you're gonna pick up Murder in the Family. In this book, our main character is producer of a show, kind of like Forensic Files, and he decides to look into the murder of his stepdad years ago that was never solved. So in this book, you're pretty much reading the episodes. Like, imagine if you were watching Forensic Files and had the subtitles on. That's what this book is. Like, if you look, you're literally like reading a transcript of a show. There's interviews, there's evidence, a bunch of different stuff going on, and it's a 7-episode arc, so you follow along for 7 episodes as they solve the murder. Pretty much following along for the 7-episode arcs. There's 7 episodes as they try to solve this case. It was super good, super interesting, read very, very fast, and just honestly, the way it's laid out, I've never read a book ever like this before, so it's very interesting. I want a contemporary romance series that's very long, that has an amazing found family and surrounds addiction, you're gonna pick up the Addicted series. This first book I'd say is definitely a little bit harder to get through and definitely a little uncomfortable of a read, I'd almost say. But it's because you're reading about addiction. That's not something that's gonna be comfortable and like pleasant all the time. But I'd say right now, like I just finished the 3rd book and I am now so enthralled in this group of people that like I just am obsessed with these. If you can stomach reading about some really twisted stuff and you loved Lord of the Flies in high school, you're gonna read The Grace here. This book is pretty much female Lord of the Flies, where I think it's during their 16th year. Like women are banished to like this place in the forest that's far off to like rid of their magic. There's also like people who hunt them who are trying to kill them. Like it's definitely dark and twisty. Lord of the Flies is up your alley. You're gonna love this. An urban fantasy with found family that's gonna get you hooked, and by the end of the 3rd book, you're going to literally be sobbing and feel so connected to these characters. These books are a trilogy and you follow along the family for like literally it's like a span of like decades, and you feel so connected to these characters by the ending that literally the series like absolutely destroyed me. And Jade Legacy is like a 5-star read, one of my favorite endings to a series I've ever read. If you want to read a romance that's not just a romance and also deals with parental trauma, okay, you're gonna read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This was a 5-star read and it was just incredible, and it had me sobbing and just like in this book, both of the main characters are kind of like cursed, where like they always find that when they break up with somebody, that person goes on to find their happily ever after next. They come up with this cute idea where they're like, well, if we did each other, we should meet our person when we break up. Just so well written and incredible. If you want a past and present romance with some mystery in it that has a crazy plot twist ending, you can read Entangled by R. Phillips. Now I will say, this book, 5 stars, incredible, had me hooked the entire time. 2nd book lost me a little bit because it had a trope in it that I didn't really enjoy. Then the 3rd book, they did my favorite character so dirty that like I could barely even read the book. I was so frustrated, but it was still incredible. So I gave it like, I think it's like a 4.5 or 4.75. But this is a modern day Helen of Troy retelling, and it is just incredible. If you want a long book series that you're gonna fall in love with and it's gonna alter your brain chemistry and how you see things, which might be dramatic, but it's not. I'm gonna pick up Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas series, and these books have my entire heart. These characters I think about daily, and I cannot wait to start my reread of these. It's gonna be a little bit because I'm actually gonna lend Throne of Glass to my sister-in-law today. She's starting her Throne of Glass journey, which makes me so emotional. But pieces of my heart never left Terrasen, never left this world, so. Those 20 very random and specific book recommendations. If you guys like this video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you want to do this again, please let me know, because I have a million more I could recommend. I find this so much fun. I'm also on TikTok at Angel's Book Corner, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!